Good afternoon, Case.
Good afternoon. Great to connect with you.
We're just hanging out.
Relaxing. Enjoying this beautiful day.
Mm-hmm.
Grateful that you're here on this planet, in this moment.
Thank you.
Contributed a great amount of good into the world.
I'm pretty happy about it as well. We're in this fight together.
It's the right way to live, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's there's a lot of different ways one can choose to live and be able to fight for something that you know is right. Seems like the best way.
Well, opportunities like this, you see life from a different perspective, you know? Turn things upside down, maybe you'll have some deep insights.
I've heard that if you go upside down, the blood rushes to your head.
Yeah, I feel that. I can validate that, my scientific experiment of one. But before too much blood goes to my head, we should probably take it down.
All right, let's try this. Well, that was refreshing.
Feels great, actually. Most people probably gone years without that happening. Without that volume of blood flow, scalp, hair loss. Just a lack of blood, really, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it's inversions, big part of my movement practice, whether it's doing handstands or a back bridge or exactly like that, hang upside down from my toes or from my legs. Blood goes to the brain. It can nourish the third eye, the ajna.
Ooh.
So I've heard. And I feel it. I feel it when I do it. You get a little lightheaded and almost feel high in a very real way. Not like a drug high, but an elevation in the state of being.
Yeah. No, that's all exercise really. Is anytime we increase our physical energy, our spiritual energy also increases. And that's why eating clean is so important. Because if you have a clear vessel, then clear energy can come through you, and everything you do is going to be blessed with a higher level of being and energy. It's not just about looking good. It is about looking good also, but that's more of the side effect of the disciplinary habits that we have and actions we can take.
I feel the same way, that the feeling good is almost a downstream benefit or consequence of pursuing feeling good.
I like that a lot. I mean, nothing feels better than being in movement, being in exercise, and being outside. That's why I'm always like,
how do you have the discipline to work out all the time? I'm getting high. You know, the pump, the feeling of cardio, or just the dopamine you would get from learning a new skill or getting better at a new skill from working out physically, handstands, whatever that is, that's so enjoyable that of course I'm going to do more of it. You know, I'd be foolish not to. It's not a discipline thing. To me, at least.
I feel the same way. Yeah, it's more of a flow, accessing a flow state, higher state of being. And it's the same thing with food, eating delicious, nutritious food. That's something that doesn't require any discipline at all.
Yeah.
Pursuing a good feeling.
Oh no, I have to eat my raw milk ice cream. Dang, this is such a chore.
I think Arnold Schwarzenegger had a pretty famous line along those lines as well, where he was lifting and he would feel the pump in his bicep and he's like, it's like I'm calming.
Yeah. Iconic. I feel the same way.
What other practices aside from movement and nutrition do you pursue because they feel good that have a downstream benefit?
Sleeping, for sure. Not that I'm really conscious while that's going on, but, you know, the feeling of getting into bed early when you've really expended your physical and mental energy for the day with constructive things that you're proud of, that feeling of the 20 minutes you kind of in bed, thinking, breathing, meditating, that's really special to me. And then the feeling that you know you're going to get in the morning because you've checked all the boxes and done what you need to do, to mean that the sleep that you do get is going to be so powerful that you wake up in the morning, bing, I'm ready to go. Like that, you always get a satisfaction of that the night before it even happens. And it's just like also, you know that you have done well for yourself. When I used to stay up all night the feeling of it being fucking 1 o'clock and knowing you have to get up at 6 a.m. for school, just no, feeling absolutely terrible. And it's all your own fault because you've just binged on YouTube or playing video games or whatever it is at the time. So that's something that I, as a practice on the whole, is very important to me. I mentioned it briefly, but breathing and meditating I try to do kind of in little microbursts throughout the day. Breathing, just being conscious overall at all times because you're always breathing. So, posturing up, expanding. Something I learned recently, which was really cool, was rotational breathing just through movement. So if I'm going like this, as you would when you're, running or swimming, or for instance, this is where I learned it, is from throwing punches. You want to rotate and everything. And when this happens, this side's compressing and then that's expanding, but it's kind of pushing your lungs and the diaphragm like a accordion. And what that does is makes you breathe automatically. So I'm rotating, but I'm not standing there having to go like actively. I'm just, and that kind of unlocked a new level of cardio for me, because you're automatically getting that breathing without having to, and that's how we're naturally meant to move. But I think I had just kind of lost that ability somewhat, or at least to be understanding of it. So keeping that in mind, and when I'm sitting and working, I'll try and think about, all right, you've been still and not moving. Let's try and just like do this a little bit, or at least be conscious of my breathing. Consciously unlocking the airways here, not letting it compress. Because like these are inner muscles. Like you have muscles inside of your face, roof of your mouth, your tongue itself. All of that can be placed in a certain way, which is going to widen your airways and make breathing more enjoyable, and you get a higher airflow. So be considerate of that throughout the day, as well as energizing breathing practices where I will, you breathe throughout the day, but a conscious time where you're like, takes a minute of that and you're just buzzing. So I like to do that a lot. Meditation as well. I'll be honest, I haven't done really focused practice of meditation for 30 minutes where I just sit and do it. I do sometimes, but it's definitely something I want to do. However, I am always conscious of just being in the awareness and recognizing when my thoughts are taking me down a little rabbit hole, which is never good, doesn't help anyone or anything. So being conscious of that, meditating and coming back to conscious awareness at all times whenever possible. And that really comprises my daily habits with what I do, practices wise.
Powerful stuff. Imagine if more people were to implement those practices or adjacent practices, they'd be able to escape some of the negative habits or detrimental things that are really plaguing the majority of mankind.
Yeah, I agree. It's so simple. And we bang on about it, and maybe some people get upset about it. But we're speaking to the people that have yet to even understand that tap water is bad for the most part. And they're the people that need the most help. And so if it seems repetitive to talk about these things, hey, it's because some people don't know, and some people, these little changes that may seem, just talking about tap water again. Yeah, I got a water filter 5 years ago. Some people just don't know. So, as our audience expands, that is one of the responsibilities, at least that I see for myself, to bring that awareness to a larger group of people.
It's powerful because it's an amazing sort of awakening or moment that we're in as a species. Grew up just in the world, and then as time has gone by, we find out all these things, little pieces of the puzzle. Raw milk is better than pasteurized milk.
Mm-hmm.
Raw meat better than cooked meat, or just the fact that you're eating meat that was from an animal that was eating its natural diet as opposed to being stuck in a warehouse. There are all these levels to the game, and the level you're at, a lot of people sense it, or they come across it and they're like, oh, that's crazy, because they are still on the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So there's this hierarchy or a practice to the art of vitality, and you're running at a mastery level, so that some of the people who are on the fundamentals may not quite understand.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't say mastery level. The thing is, I learned something and I'm like, dang, I really thought the other thing before. Like this knee thing makes so much more sense. And there's so much that I don't know. So I appreciate the compliment. However, mastery, it's definitely not there yet.
Well,
The pursuit of mastery is what I'm on.
that's yeah, and you're definitely humble as well, because that's part of the practice. and I mean, when I say mastery, I think it's an important to
Relative, maybe.
put that in the context. Do you perceive your practice of, I like to call it a vitality practice, but health in general, the way that you cultivate it on a daily basis, is that something that how active are you in your cultivation?
Yeah. So it's my primary goal, for sure. It's my primary directive, North Star. One, it's just a priority because you want to perform well, feel good, and have the energy and things to do what you need to do in the world. And, that's great. To have the energy to be able to give excess energy to other people. That's, I think, what it comes down to, is knowing that taking a sauna a couple times a week or eating the right foods is going to mean that you are healthier, and therefore you have the capacity to help others. Because if you're not healthy and you're shit diet, shit sleep, you're going to be grumpy, tired, you just don't have the energy to help other people. Like that's at the root of it. So I know if I move away from my attempted mastery of vitality, then other people are going to suffer because I'm not going to be able to answer their DMs for example, to help them out, or just, be able to have the energy to inject into them. That's what coaching is. A lot of the time with health coaching is like, your client comes in, I don't know if I can do this, I feel this, I feel that, and you're like, you can do this. Like, it's as simple as that. This is how you do it. Here's my information that I've learned from years of practicing things. But the encouragement is an energetic injection that's probably the most important part of it. And if you just don't have the fire inside you, you cannot light other people's fires. So that's really the directive of the prime vitality for me.
And the more you are able to give, the more you're able to receive, ultimately, and not looking at it from the angle of what can I get from people, but what can I give to people, and what problems can we solve. There's so many massive problems out there that need high vitality, high energy, good mood in order to address and solve. And I think that's a really solid foundation to be able to cultivate a high level of vitality to give more to other people.
I agree.
When we think about training, there's been a core part of your life, and what sort of exercises are your favorites? Some of the ones that you love to do on a regular basis.
Yeah, body weight primarily. Not primarily. I started with weights, but there's nothing more classic than push-ups, dips, pull-ups, handstands in their various forms, and it gives you a feeling of power of your body and over life itself, because you can do everything that you want to do without these limitations of pain or weakness. When I started to train weights as a teenager, and then I would go into jobs, maybe when I was moving furniture, and I was able to move twice as much, 3 times as someone else because of the time I'd put in the gym. That was, it was very, very gratifying, but I just felt more prepared for life. And that has transpired and kind of, launching up the stairs when there's several flights of stairs, or a long hike through the mountains, and you're not the one that has to stop and rest and things because you've dedicated yourself to the previous exercises. That's probably like the best result of exercise, in my opinion, and why we should train the body. And if you don't train the body, then your mind isn't as strong, first of all, because mentally you just haven't gone through what you need to do to force yourself to do something that's tough. But then also at a biochemical level, you're not exercising, moving, and blood flow and your bone density and all the rest of it. So your mental game is actually weaker just from that lack of movement as well. So if you're a nerd that thinks physical training is above you, but you love the mental stuff and you love being a nerd and thinking about things, think about exercise as a way to get better at the nerdy stuff, because it is. And that's favorite exercises. I guess there's a million, as in terms of lifting weights, because the more that you do, the kind of newer angles you have to find, new machines to train different muscles, the classics. I've moved away from barbell training recently because it doesn't seem to align with the way that I now understand is the way that the human body is meant to move. I think there are ways of loading the body with weighted stuff that is not the classic barbells, even though I did them for years and years and they served me well in a lot of ways. So I'm not doing them now on occasion, but really any exercise that you choose to do, it's about intensity. It's about pushing yourself to the next limit. I think it's Frank Zane that had the quote, it's either Frank Zane or Mike Mensa. He said, make your workout harder than the last one. That's pretty much it. And then if you do that all the time, whatever muscle group you're training, if you can access a new point of pushing yourself to the next level of intensity, then you're going to make gains mentally, physically.
How do you do that when you're in that space of, wow, this is intense, I'm going to push further, versus, okay, that's too far. That's as far as I've pushed. Is that something you're sensing out?
It's whatever you can't do anymore, and that'll change day on day. But in the moment where the muscles are burning and the blood's pumping, there's several ways to motivate yourself. One is just the concept of the more pain that I can endure right now, the better results that I'm going to get once this all is said and done. And this is a temporary feeling of pain. And if I can make friends with that pain and not really call it a pain rather than just a feeling that you're currently feeling in that moment, and almost enjoy it. A lot of people, they furrow their brow and they grin, which I do sometimes. But when I'm thinking about it, try smiling. Try smiling and being happy that you're even able to have the potential to push yourself to this next level and take on that pain, because every part of that you can endure is, for example, in a couple years' time, if you do a really intense hike and your legs are burning, but you've already experienced that years back from, days on days on days from heavy squats or whatever long form cardio you do, you're already prepared. You've already gone to that level, so that the rest of life is going to be fundamentally easier for you in the physical way. That is what motivates me when I'm looking for an extra few reps in the tank. There's a couple funny ones where, if I fail this rep, my whole family is going to die or something like that. You don't want to think about that, but, that concept of if I fail this, I'm a loser. Get it up. That's always fun. Or each rep I do, I get another $1,000, something like that.
It's awesome because we can use our mind to overcome these limitations that are holding us back, and tapping into some of these deeper realities is true. One time a guy stole my shoes down there. I had to chase him across the beach, and halfway through I was pretty exhausted, but I was able to push through
because you had your shoes.
Because I had training. One, because he had my shoes that I wanted to take him down, and the other, because I had trained. If I hadn't trained, I would have been exhausted. These things happen to people out of the blue. So training for reality, that's a very real part of this. Even though we feel like, okay, civilization's pretty chill, there aren't people attacking us. It can happen at any moment for a lot of people. And it's as men, it's our responsibility to have that level of fitness to where we can take care of ourselves and our loved ones if need be.
Yeah, could you scoop your unconscious loved one off the ground and run a mile to safety? Not many people could. And if you can't, then that's a big failing. Grab a sandbag, a couple dumbbells, and even if it's just marching, that kind of thing that's real world translation of things. And that is probably the most important, as well as the aesthetics they come through. But again, second order effect of these kind of core principles of training for real life.
You mentioned dips as one of your favorite exercises. You think we could demonstrate some of the proper dip form for people?
Yeah. We can go to these ones.
This high enough?
Kind of shallow or
Narrow. It's all right. Okay, so the dip. The dip can be done in several ways to hit different muscles, but some of my favorite ways to do dips are the Vince Gironda dip, which is where you're going to tuck your chin down, you're going to bring your feet forward, so you're like this rounded shape. Tuck the chin, and then down like that. When we're doing that, this is focusing on the chest primarily. The dip is an incredible exercise for the chest if you do it in that way. If you then shift with your legs back and you have your head further up, that's going to be more of your shoulders. And you can feel that if you're on the dip bars at home or in the gym. Whichever way you tilt yourself, move your head, and even just mentally connecting to the various parts of the body to induce movement, that's going to hit different parts of the body. And you can do both. See, my legs are behind me. My center of gravity is this way. So that's going to mean my top half comes forward. That's going to be more pressure on the shoulders. The good thing about bodyweight exercises is there's less chance of injuring yourself, and you can do them in ways that are still very, very tough. And, you know, you can get jacked from bodyweight exercises alone, as this guy will show.
Yep, mostly.
How long has it been since you've been in the gym?
It's been eight years now.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and there have been, haven't lifted a weight heavier than 63 pounds, aside from my body weight. And using things like this, you can add, I mean, you can do intensity. So if you're pushing up really hard,
yeah,
you know, that's something you're doing internally, but you're kind of making up for the fact that it's just your body weight as opposed to.
Yeah, so there's the explosiveness if you're coming up. There's also, if you really slow things down when you're lowering, because that's a lot harder than just, oh, I'm falling. That's not really using the muscle. And in any exercise that we do, we're going to get more benefit from using the muscles themselves rather than, oh, I'm just moving the weight by swinging myself in gravity or whatever. And the more that you can make a lighter weight or a body weight feel harder without adding weight itself, that's also just a good way to increase progressive overload, less likely of injuring yourself, being smarter about training.
Those have been big keys for me, especially as I've gotten a little bit older. I wouldn't say that I'm old, but entering my 30s, I start to feel some of the, youth fade, and the injuries, they just take a little bit longer to recover from, and not even mentioning the fact that it sets you back. You can't really train when you're injured. So a lot of people who are just trying to get strong by lifting the highest amount of weight, almost everyone gets injured through that approach at some point.
Yep. And you really got to think about gym culture on the whole. If an exercise is injuring people, I mean, you can injure yourself even just running in the wrong way. So it's not necessarily the exercise, it's just how you do it. But when you do get to those really heavy weights, that tends to be where things can go wrong more often than not. And what is the marginal benefit? Unless you're training for powerlifting, like at some point, you're going to have to lift weights that scare you and could injure you if you want to be upper echelons of powerlifter, bodybuilder. That's the nature of life. You have to risk it to get the biscuit. So it's just, but if you're a more casual fitness person and just want to get fit and jacked in a normal way, like you don't have to be lifting 1 rep maxes or just slamming on weight for a barbell squat if you're been sitting in an office chair all day. Like that's just it's a recipe for disaster when you're doing things like that.
It is amazing how many recipes for disaster are set up for our society as the default path. Think about something like jogging, running. The majority of people are like, okay, I'm going to get fit, so I'm just going to start jogging. So they throw on these big shoes, they throw on polyester clothes, they throw on AirPods, and they
They run on concrete outside
Yes.
on the streets, breathing car fumes. Or they go and run on a treadmill under a blue light in the gym, and it's like late at night, but blue light slamming. How are ya? Yeah, so fitness culture in general has to have a massive shift, and we're seeing that, which is awesome. People are going to be healthier. Like, the gym doesn't necessarily mean health. It can help health, and there are different gyms. Some are outside. It's how you use everything again, but it's not. A lot of it is not good, and we'll see the downstream effects of that.
Even with food, a lot of the mainstream default pathways with food as well. Something like eating a plant-based diet or eating low-fat, which I think I grew up under. I think you probably grew up under that paradigm as well, the low-fat, approach.
I was lucky. My parents didn't fall for that. We had good animal fats and olive oil and things. We got a few things wrong. I had Nutella. Nutella on toast for breakfast. A little seed oil sugar bomb, but it was pretty good.
That's lucky. I feel like a lot of people grew up way worse than me. I'm very grateful for the way that I was raised, and I do think about things that I would do differently with my child, or things that you would do differently with your kid versus how you were.
For sure, a million things. Yeah. There's a lot. Obviously, I don't have a kid yet, but food choice would be more similar to what I eat now, and there just wouldn't be any of that in the house. No sunscreen. I remember putting on sunscreen as a kid. Limiting beliefs that my parents, that's just how they were raised. They'd pass it on, or how the society influenced them. It is what it is. Some negativity in things, kind of inevitable. And they say, I don't know if this is like just a cope limiting belief in itself, but they say that if you try to bring up your kids with no traumas, you'll just give them more traumas or some bullshit. That's probably what psychologists say to get you to take therapy or something. But I would hope that I'm just open enough and non-judgmental enough and loving enough that my kids feel supported my eventual kids will feel supported to do whatever they want, encouraged to pursue their natural passions and be given the best nutrition and a natural way of life as much as possible. That's really what I want to do.
What's your vision for family of the future?
My family of the future, or a family of the future?
Yours. Do you have a vision for it that you're building for?
Yeah, I mean, there's the standard where I want at least a few acres to have some animals, garden, hopefully a natural spring in the forest somewhere. And then I think I would be happy with 5 kids as a minimum. But then whatever God blesses me with past that, the more the merrier.
It's a beautiful vision.
Yeah. Dogs. Definitely have a lot of dogs.
A lot of people right now are building towards that or something similar to it. And then there's almost a parallel society that's thinking, no kids, I'm going to be into the Google glasses off to Mars. This strange sort of rift in society where we've got sort of connected with Earth, embracing vitality versus more of a twisted sense of what's right. Now, it seems like that's being driven by big businesses to me, and maybe even some sort of demonic spiritual forces that are beyond my comprehension.
Yeah.
But there's a very interesting awakening happening in a rift in society that's currently forming. And it seems like you are playing a big part in waking a lot of people up. Do you sense a responsibility to that, or is that all, something that you really enjoy?
Yeah, well, I tell the truth as I see it, and it's fairly obvious to anyone with brains and bravery that what the typical leftists, aka communists, are pushing is don't eat meat because meat is terrible for the environment and you should be weaker even if it means eating plants. Because eating meat is terrible, don't do that. Don't create carbon emissions, therefore we have to limit your heating, you can't drive around, can't fly anywhere, can't do anything because you're a little slug and you don't deserve that because you're worthless and all the rest of it. let infinity immigration wipe out your culture because you don't deserve it, you're an evil person. Like, it's all this common theme of getting rid of this individual, and it requires a complete disconnect with reality and lies and censorship and all the rest of it. And everyone can see it's like the emperor's new clothes. Like, actually, this doesn't make sense, or that seems like a lie, or all the medical anti-freedom stuff that they pushed over the last few years. All of that is obviously wrong. And so if I see that and I say, hey, this is actually bad for you, or this is bullshit, that's what I do have a responsibility to do. And that's what I have a responsibility to, that I feel now that I have an audience and all the rest of it. Because otherwise, that's like just a pathway to hell. And we're only at this point because enough people were scared to not go against that because they were worried about what other people would think of them. They didn't want to be, I care about the environment. I'll allow the carbon emissions scheme to tax the middle class to go through. Like, all of that, it's because you were scared of telling the truth. So fundamentally, that has resulted in people that, okay, I see the truth, I'm going to stand up for the truth, and I'm going to live my life in a way that aligns with that. And that's obviously going to be better off, and you're going to be healthier because it's the truth. It's like the natural, vital way of life. And nothing that's born out of lies and eventually leads to death can ever perform better than something that's born out of the truth and the natural way of life and the earth and what God intended for us. So what's going to happen is that group that wants to, whether it's usually unconscious, but whatever, they're captured by that ideology, they are going to just self-spiral and collapse, as it always does. And they won't have kids because they think that it's evil to bring more life into this world. Okay, I'm going to have 10 kids. And then what's going to happen when my group of people who are all having 10 kids and you just self-sterilize yourself eating soy and go for it? At some point, like, I'm putting out the information. I want as many people to know the truth. However, if you're going to like actively work against other people's freedoms and wish them to die because they don't align with you, then at some point, like, that's my enemy. And so I'm going to do everything that I can to make sure that this ideology and the people that believe in that and truth comes through. And, that can start with something as simple as getting your health in order and encouraging other people to do the same. Because, again, health increases the ability for that energy to come through, that pure energy from God, and that's always going to lead you eventually to truth and to the better option.
Powerful.
Mm-hmm.
That's really the ultimate aim of a lot of what you share, that I sense, is that when you cultivate the high vitality, when you get your health to a certain level, you're able to almost tune an antenna to access ideas that kind of direct you towards what's right and good and true.
Yep.
And God. And it's
Exactly.
amazing.
Yeah. It's a superpower, really. And everyone can do it, It's a frequency thing. And I'm not always able to tap into that frequency, depending on what I'm doing or the thoughts that I'm thinking or where I am. Maybe it comes in waves. And the great spiritual leaders are people that have just been able to hit that frequency for, whether it's permanently or just constantly at such a high level, that then they deliver this information that is required for the people around them to hear at that certain point in time. And that's how I believe that God works. It's like these ideas that we're talking about need to come out now because we're at the point where microplastics is in everything and we need people to speak up against it. Like, if it was the case in medieval England and we needed to say, this king is evil, like, that's what we would be doing, It's that kind of thing. And I'm just playing out the role that seems to be given to me.
What are some big inflection points along your journey as a creator, as a man on your hero's journey?
Yeah, I wish there was I don't wish there was a thing, but people always say, like, what started it? Was there any huge points? And I don't really think so. It's just been like a labyrinth, a beautiful path, a beautiful labyrinth of going further down this path and trusting that what my intuition was guiding me to was the real thing. And it took so long to listen to that intuitive sense and direction. And for so long, it was years of just, okay, that feels like something that I'd want to do, but I should just do this other thing, university or a different job instead. And life just got so much better when I started actually listening to that and actually telling the truth and actually just cutting the other things out of my life that I didn't want to do. So yeah, it was a slow burn for all those things.
It's interesting to think about the entire pathway that maybe we should head over there, check out some of these that you've been on, following your intuitive guidance. I know you currently have many different ways in which your intuition guides you to provide value into the world. You have the Soul Club, you have Soul Subs, you've got Soul Apparel, and you've got a book that you recently published. Did I miss anything? You've also got retreats, right? That's a handful of things.
Yeah. Also Soul Scents, the natural perfumes that we make. But yeah, I see myself as a node, really, where I can create things that are natural, healthy alternatives to a lot of the things that are poisoning people in various ways, and also in a way, of course, that enables me to make money and live a lifestyle that I want, and also create the things that I think look really cool and are cool.
Yeah.
And the soap as well. It's just so awesome to be able to have an idea of, okay, so no one's actually making an extra virgin olive oil organic soap with nothing else in it. It doesn't exist, at least what I found, so I made it. And, these shorts, couldn't find them in 100% cotton in a certain way and fit, so I made them. And a lot of the time, I have incredible people that I work with. It's not just me, but I've been, as this node, I've been able to connect people to help me to do things as a group together to create, enterprises that create good products for people. And then also, the more that you can create value for the world, the more you're going to be financially compensated for that. So that's how I think about it.
What was first of everything, that entire list?
First was my cooking ebook, Cooking with Sol Brah. Your Guide to Eating with Vitality was the first thing. And I think I did coaching first, and then the coaching enabled me to quit my job, to which I wrote the ebook. But that was, those are the first kind of two things. But the ebook was the first one. It was like a nutrition guide, lots of pictures about how I ate, recipes, very simple, but like how you should eat and why you should eat those kinds of foods. It was a learning experience. I look back at it now, I'm like, I would have done it a lot better. The way I eat has changed since 4 years ago, which is interesting as well. But yeah, it got a lot of heat, actually, when I first launched it. You weren't following me back then, right? Yeah.
No, I wasn't using social media much before 2020. COVID was a real catalyst for me to start kind of engaging more online, to share ideas, to try and help people and just figure things out. But yeah, I look at everything that you've created now. I think a lot of people do, and they maybe think that it all just kind of appeared. But yeah, it was a slow, iterative process, as you described. And I know that many of the supplements that you create, I've tried, and they're great. You've got the Glycine, which is wonderful at night. The Soul Salts are an amazing electrolyte, and the niacin, which we had before here. There's taurine as well, and bison organs, right?
Yeah, we got an organ complex, and then just straight liver as well.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Which of those was first? Was that the Soul Salts?
Glycine was the first one. Yeah.
What's that about?
Well, it's an amino acid. It's the simplest amino acid, and primarily it's used to improve sleep quality when you take it before bed, improve REM sleep, and a cool side effect of it is that you get more vivid dreams. You kind of enter this dream world, different frequency. Like what we put in our body affects the frequency that we have, impacts the kind of areas that we're able to perceive when we are unconscious in sleep, in the astral realm where your consciousness goes when you're asleep. So glycine is a way to kind of change that. Like, it's very common for people to come back, dude, I had the most insane dreams. Like, I was in Atlantis, my granddad was there, like these really wild and entertaining dreams to the point where you want to go to bed, and it's exciting each time when you have it. But it's also, you know, as the simplest amino acid, it's used in so many different things, and it's great for recovery. It improves growth hormone secretion when you have it post-workout. It's naturally sweet, so it tastes yummy on things. If you're looking to lower sugar or whatever, then you can sprinkle it over food or add it to baking. It's a really versatile thing for your skin and nails as well.
I use it in my tea at night, and I have noticed it helps me ease into sleep. I've seen Noah Ryan puts it on his blueberries as a snack before bed. I think that's a great tip, and I think dreams are really fascinating, and it would be incredible for us to kind of embrace them more. I've seen such a rise in psychedelics over the past 10 years. Part of me thinks it's because we aren't dreaming as much as we used to. That's a psychedelic experience every night that we could be tapping into, learning from potentially.
Yeah, I mean, the things that will limit the dreams that you have, weed, alcohol, any substance really, that's going to be impacting your sleep. And so the thing about sleep is, although we are unconscious, it's still energetically intensive, and it's still a complex process that your body needs to go through. Now, any other complex process that we go through where we're inebriated through smoking, drinking, or anything else, psychotic medications, our performance is going to be limited in that. We don't operate machinery while we're doing that. Your sleep quality is obviously going to be impacted by that. Even though you're unconscious, you think, oh yeah, I'm asleep. If I'm asleep and unconscious at that time, then I'm getting all my sleep. But if you're drinking and doing drugs before you go into that, then the capacity for the recovery is lowered. And when your sleep quality is lowered, you're not going to dream as much. So yeah, I think that's a massive one. Sleep, dreams themselves can be a spiritual tool. They can be warnings. They can be things that your body just shows you to kind of confront problems that you may have. And when we medicate ourselves, we lose that tool.
As an example of this, I have a friend, Ryan Griggs. He recently on his podcast.
Oh yeah.
He has a company called the Regenaissance. And I saw that came to me in a dream where I was thinking about the Renaissance and regenerative agriculture, and they were just being combined into this coming awakening, a Renaissance, a Regenaissance. And so like dreams can give things that people that end up being kind of cool. And yeah, it is an underserved tool. There's another thing that as society, we just, dreams, whatever. That don't mean anything. It's just a random concoction.
Yeah. The periodic table invention came to the guy in a dream. He spent all his time, studying and trying to figure this out, and he just went to sleep and was like, here it is. Here's how to organize all the elements.
Where does that come from? That's like another dimension? God
sends it out as we are the receivers.
So dreams are a gift from God, in a way.
Yeah. I think so.
Should we try this thing?
Yeah. Cap it off with a swing to the other side.
For everyone watching, these are about 6 feet apart, maybe longer. 7 or 8 feet.
Yeah, easy.
This was built in the 1930s during the Great Depression. Not many people can do this. They come and they try, and they usually just kind of fall.
I've done this before, just FYI. See?
Awesome.
Thank you.
That was great conversation. Learned a lot and feeling inspired about everything that we went through and elevating my vitality, tuning in to that life force, sharing my truth, being courageous, and creating iteratively over time, following intuition. It's a powerful path that you're on. I appreciate you sharing it. with everyone and grateful for it.
Thanks for having me, man. There's a lot more to do.
Absolutely.
Thanks for being you as well.
Thanks.